Ladies and gentlemen, this is El Cochino, Tom Lawler, and I'd like to welcome you to the podcast that puts the lotion on its own skin, LuchaWorld. Bitchin'.
Welcome everyone to LuchaWorld Podcast, episode number 98. Fredo Esparza here. Lots to talk about in Lucha Libre. A lot of news. The majority of it really revolving around the Rush versus LA Park feud. Not just in CMLL, but, with all the news that came about with, with everything that came up from Triple Mania and, LA Park appearing there at the AAA press conference and then being revealed on a couple, I think it's just the AAA versus Elite lineup. So, and then him not appearing on the most recent, on the upcoming CMLL lineup. Everything pretty much revolves around them, be it CMLL, AAA, IWRG, every other independent, the Crash, everywhere. I mean, these two guys right now, Lucha Libre is just revolving around them, and even like the other guys who are kind of in this, the news buzz of the moment, like King Phoenix, Rey Fenix, Penta Zero M. Even they realize that they're just at the moment, while they're big names and they're getting big opportunities all over the place. In Mexico, they're pretty much, revolving around the entire, and not just them, also Dragon Lee, other guys. And I think you kind of like when you hear other guys talk about this feud, you kind of hear the excitement from their voices as they talk about it. I think there's been a couple of other guys that have been interviewed in CML and they're talking about this as well. This has been really one of the hottest feuds, not just in Mexico, but in the world. And, it's great that we're getting it in CMLL, not just on the independent scene, because in the indies, best case scenario, Mas Lucha records the show, the matches and puts some complete on their YouTube channel. Maybe we get some cell phone clips from their, videos from the independent shows that they might be facing off against each other. We get some interviews and stuff like that. But, there's also the worst case where we might not get all of this stuff. Well, fortunately, we're getting it in CMLL. And, I, for one, am really, I really think the fact that there's some rules and these two guys constantly bring up how CML kind of holds them from going all out. I think it just adds more to their rivalry. And we saw it on the June 22nd Friday show, where the conclusion of that, I think that's basically what we all were hoping for from this feud, where we were going to get something that ended, and you just knew this was something completely different from everything else. Yeah, but their feud, it's been going on for the last couple of months, really the last 2 years. Rush brought up how they've been feuding for 2 years and how finally more and more people are getting to see it because they're doing it in CMLL. And he, even in his Informa interview, he brought up how, we're being forced to abide to CML's rules. If you really want to see our matches go all out, go watch our match in Naucalpan. They had a tag match there, crazy match there also. I'll talk about it in a bit, but so basically you're getting all this stuff and what's going on in other promotions, not just the matches or maybe some highlights, but we're also getting their interviews, and their interviews and their social media has been really great. I think the last show I talked about that we did was before the June 8th show, and that actually had the trios match where it's Familia Real versus Ingobernables, and then that followed up the following week. They had Rey Fenix, teaming up with LA Park and Volador Jr. versus Rush as Terrible and Cibernetico, the June 15th show, and that match wasn't as good as the previous week, but it had a really fun ending. Actually, I thought it was actually not that bad, but I think the way it was booked, there was a lot of it's an LA Park Rush match where at some point you're just gonna get some craziness, and it just doesn't come across like a match where it's not like an Omega Okada match or something that's you could actually rate or say it's great, or it's across the board people are gonna say it's great or amazing or 5 stars, 7 stars, whatever you want to come up with as how you want to define a great match. But it was so crazy, and it had the really cool ending where LA Park got caught using nunchucks that were thrown in and were used originally were going to be used by Rush, but LA Park was able to stop him, and the ref actually caught him doing his nunchucks, the little movement that he was doing. I thought that was really cool. Then that followed. Then right after that, I think it was the Father's Day show. Rush and Mystico teamed up to face Sansón and Cuatrero in Arena Mexico, and I think later in the night they had a match. Rush and Dragon Lee teamed up on an IWRG show in Naucalpan versus LA Park and Hijo de LA Park. This is the match that Rush said that everyone should watch. Brought it up on Informa. I watched it, and it was really. I thought this was really good. Hijo de LA Park looked, and actually Hijo de LA Park the last couple of weeks that he's been on not just in CMLL but also involved in this feud, this tag match, he's looked a lot better. I think the thing that makes him maybe this is what's going to help him, that he doesn't look like the CMLL guys, because he's a skinny looking dude in a skeleton outfit. He kind of reminds me of like I don't know how many of you guys remember before PWG there was Revolution Pro, and they used to have all the guys like Super Dragon, Excalibur, and all those guys, and they were really like, a lot of those guys were really skinny, and they wore full body suits, so it kind of looked like they were they kind of didn't look like wrestlers. They looked just like more like kids, out there having fun, trying to do crazy dives and stuff like that. And that's kind of what Hijo de LA Park kind of reminds me of, because he's so skinny. But he's actually kind of looked a lot better in matches. I do think he kind of comes across a little more like an indie wrestler, which I think it's fine, because you want him to be different from what the CMLL guys are supposed to look like. The CMLL guys look a little more like that he's been in with. I'm not saying all the CMLL guys, because a lot of the CMLL guys, there's a lot of guys who just, when they start talking about the CMLL promotion, how there's a lot of great talent. There's a lot of great talent. There's a lot of guys that I'm sure if you're gonna build a promotion and say these guys are the example of what a luchador is, they fit that description. They got great physiques, they stay in shape and do all that stuff. They could do high flying, technical wrestling, mat wrestling, stuff like they could brawl and stuff like that. But then you have another half of the CMLL roster that doesn't even look like they belong in CMLL. I'm talking about like Bestia, that Ring, and guys like that kind of just look like they're within 5 minutes they're pretty much blown up. But with Hijo de LA Park, he looks so different. And in this match, I thought he was the one that kind of looked like he took the beating the most from Dragon Lee. And you look at Dragon Lee, like I said, he looks like he's in great shape. And he actually got to work a little bit with LA Park, whereas Hijo de LA Park, I didn't really see him do as much with Rush. But in this match, they really did a great job of just a great brawl. They brawled all over the place. Blood Rush and LA Park bled. Masks were ripped. Really good match. Highly recommend you guys watch it. The referee for this match was like huge. I mean, he had to be like 6'3", 6'4", which is huge for us Mexicans. He dwarfed LA Park and Rush. At one point, he got LA Park was going for a pin on Rush, and Dragon Lee pulled the ref's leg out to pull him out of the ring. And he could barely pull him out. And when the ref stood in front of Dragon Lee and he was reprimanding him, he looked like, it kind of reminds you, like if you watch WCW, it was like when Kevin Nash and Rey Mysterio were facing off. But actually, it might have been more like Kevin Nash of today, like yelling at a luchador right now, a younger guy. It kind of looked like that. The guy looked like Kevin Nash because he was all, like, he looked like he was, I'm guessing he must have, I don't know, I'm guessing he was a former wrestler or a current wrestler or something, because he was huge. And then that's the guy that they should probably bring in, like CML should bring in, just to be just a different type of ref, because he's so like for these guys, or for some like big feud or whatever, because he's not somebody that looks like he's going to be intimidated. But then like at the very end, they did this really cool spot where Rush had LA Park in the corner, and he was going to do when he charges towards the other corner to like come back and do the drop kick of death into the corner. Or now he won't do the drop kick. He'll actually do he'll do like a little, like, like he'll mock him, like he'll like kick him or slap him or do something. Instead, while he did that, he bumps into the ref, and the ref takes a bump to the ground. And it looks so funny because Rush just looked like, I dropped them, but it kind of looked a little funny. It looked actually, it was a different way of getting rid of the ref, which I thought worked. But overall, I thought the match was really good, and you're gonna get that sort of thing. I mean, you can't expect these guys to have like a clean finish all the time because they're gonna work constantly. I give them credit for at least giving you like this crazy match where you're just having like all the fans are running all over the place, like because they don't want to get hit by chairs or they just don't want to be near these all four of these guys just brawling all over the place. Really fun match, totally different to what was happening in Arena Mexico earlier with Rush teaming up with Mystico versus Sansón and Cuatrero. I'll talk about that later. But after that match with from Naucalpan, they come back and they have the big singles match on June 22nd, LA Park versus Rush, and it ends in a draw because LA Park knocks out Rush when Rush brought a picture frame to the ring. I think it was him or Comandante. I think it was him that brought it because I don't think he had a second for that match because I know Bestia ran in later on. So he grabs the picture frame and he's going to use it. Only Ali Park ends up taking it away and he uses it, knocks him out. And this was a great job of Rush selling for this. It was amazing because Ali Park kept on attacking him. Overall, this was just an amazing match from start to finish. I should just start from the very beginning. They brawled in the crowd. They threw crates, the snack box, the snack containers, and with a popcorn and all that stuff. They threw bottles. They did everything they could that they possibly could get away with on a CMLL show. But that finish where he hits him with a picture frame, he gets knocked out. The glass is all over the place. We see Rush's shoulder. Shoulder region is bleeding and he's not moving, and LA Park continues to attack him. The ref keeps trying to stop him. This is the second ref too, by the way. They knocked out the ref. The first ref got knocked out in the first fall, so they brought in Ed Noriega, the Güero Noriega, who's the younger CMLL ref. He came out, so then he's trying to stop these guys from he's trying to stop LA Park from continuing to just destroy Rush. So then he finally drags Rush out of the ring. That doesn't stop LA Park from beating him, from continuing his attack. They bring out a stretcher to stretcher Rush out of the ring, out of the scene actually, the ringside area. So he grabs the stretcher and continues to beat him up. The referee doesn't know what to do, so he runs back in and counts out both guys, ends the match in a draw. All the CML security is out there trying to stop LA Park. So you have this really awesome scene where LA Park is standing and you have 10 to 15 security guards, the Boxy Lucha commissioner, the referee, everybody just trying to keep him away from Rush. They help Rush out of the ring. So you're basically, you have this amazing scene where Rush is being helped by a couple of security guards are just helping him back to the back. I think one of them carried him out, and then he lowered Rush back so he didn't have to carry him all the way. So as they're taking Rush away, LA Park cuts a promo telling Rush that he wants the mass match and tells him to stop being a coward and he's just putting him down. He apologizes to CML for what happened and all this stuff, but he wants the match. And just a crazy scene, crazy finish. I think everybody was in shock with the way that match ended. I think it was probably one of the better CML shows of the year. Probably not in terms of match quality and even that you could even make the argument because there was a really good match earlier on the card that I'll talk about, and there was actually I think the semi-main event was also really good. So this might have been one of their better shows. If you want to make the argument that was the best show of the year, I would probably not argue with you. I think it kind of tells you if this ends up being the main event for the anniversary, I think we're in for one of the better shows, not just of this year, but it might be one of the better shows going back to the Ultimo Guerrero Atlantis mass match, all that series of matches that they had, and probably going even further to the Viano 3 versus Atlantis mass match. It might be one of those, it might be one of those bigger shows that we're going to get in CMLL. I would not be surprised if a lot of the people decide to like fly out there as soon as that match gets announced, and they didn't announce it yet. But once they announce it, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of people like going and purchasing tickets for that match, because it's going to be in a scene, and it's going to be something that I think a lot of people are hoping will happen. There's a lot of obstacles that this has to go through before we get to it, because first of all, we have to see if these two guys, if CML actually does do the contract signing between these two guys. And then there's also the Triple Mania mass match with LA Park, Psycho Clown, Penta Zero M, Pentagon Jr., whatever they want to call him in AAA, or and Hijo del Fantasma is going to be in that. So it's basically Psycho Clown, Hijo del Fantasma, Pentagon Jr., and LA Park in that Poker de Aces Triple Mania match. That still has to happen. And you never know. Maybe LA Park drops his mask there, changes the dynamic of the anniversary. I don't know if CML would do a hair versus hair match between those two. I mean, would it actually kill the buzz for this feud? I don't know. I personally hope he doesn't drop his mask at Triple Mania, and if he does, it's just because that adds to the anniversary show. I mean, I don't even think if it's even possible for him to like keep the mask beyond, I think that would be perfectly fine. But it's gonna be if this match from June 22nd is any indication of how crazy it's gonna be, that match is gonna be amazing, and I think it's pretty much gonna seal. Rush was like 6th or 7th place in the Observer Wrestler of the Year award, I think, last year, and a lot of us were talking about how he did very little beyond that one match he had with LA Park that made its way online. I think it was the Baracal Entertainment show. And, beyond that, he did nothing. He did next to nothing in CMLL. I mean, you could go back, and it wasn't until like December when they finally like started doing stuff with Rush. But this year, if that match happens, you could make an argument for Rush or LA Park for Wrestler of the Year, and not just in Mexico. I think there's going to be a big debate whether or not there's going to be that contingent of New Japan fans that votes that for awards, or not just in the Observer but everywhere, where they're going to like have to decide if they're willing to like concede that this feud has been amazing for the most part. So Rush does the Informa show and basically accepts the mask versus hair match as the train passes by, as you guys can probably hear. And, he did a great job of it's funny because after that match ended, LA Park just spent all that time retweeting everybody, talking about what a major beatdown he gave Rush. And that beatdown, I mean, if you have not watched the LA Park versus La Parka match from a couple of years ago, you have to watch that match, because that was kind of what happened on that CML Friday show was kind of like a condensed, like a version of what that match was in terms of long form, because Rush could actually give a little more to LA Park as opposed to what La Parka could do with LA Park. But basically that kind of was like, I kind of viewed that as a similar beatdown. As far as like the energy for this match, it kind of reminded me, like, I know Meltzer was saying like it kind of felt like a 1970s match, and I would probably agree, like a rivalry of that era. I don't know how many of you guys remember watching, like, if you guys watch Mid-South Wrestling, but there, and UWF, but there was like when Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Terry Bam Bam Gordy would have matches, the crowd would react in a similar fashion to what the crowd reacted to when LA Park and Rush, like, that match, because it kind of had the same feeling. I'm trying to think if there's been other matches that have had that similar feeling, where it isn't like you're not expecting it, the feeling that you get isn't that it's going to be like this amazing match of the year candidate, but more of like this match is going to be like, just like wild. It's going to be like really intense. There's going to be a crazy brawl, and I kind of think that's what it was, and it's going to be great also because both of the guys can not only are they like terrific brawlers, but they could actually wrestle. They're actually like doing stuff in the match where it's not just like, oh, let's just, throw crap at each other for like 30 minutes. It's not like a death match or anything. Also, I think that's also what helps, that it's like, that's what hardcore wrestling was in the 80s. This is what these guys are doing. This is hardcore wrestling from like the 70s and 80s, and not what you see now where like, it's lucha extrema with, tables, ladders, chairs, and it's just grab whatever you could find in the arena. Not look underneath the ring to find it. Like, wow, there's like 40 tables underneath the ring. No, this is like, hey, I'm gonna grab that one chair that's that fan was sitting on and just use it on this guy. That's what this is more kind of felt like. So after that, so LA Park is retweeting all these comments from fans, and they're all making fun of Rush being knocked out. There's actually a meme where it's a Simpsons meme where they're dragging away this. I think it's probably Homer Simpson, or I don't know. It might have been Krusty the Clown or something. I don't know who it was, but there was somebody laying on the that was dead on the street, and they're like keeping the guy away, and they're like, and so it's basically they put the picture of Rush on the guy's body, and then LA Park on the guy who's being dragged away. And the meme basically says, leave him alone, he's dead. So it's like, and it wasn't just that, it just kept on going and on and on. So for about, I would guess, several hours up until late Saturday, the following day of that match, Rush tweets out, sure, all you fans laugh all you want, enjoy your moment, but I'm gonna come back. And I'm gonna destroy that dog, because I'm gonna give him double what he gave me. And he said that again in Informant. I thought that was pretty great. I mean, if there's probably, I don't think there's two guys who come across as being like, I don't know what it is, because also Dragon Lee has a little bit of that. But whatever the Dragon Lee and Rush have it, they have that thing where they can make it look like it's hate does exist. Dragon Lee does it with Hiromu and they both kind of bring that level of there's you could totally buy that whole thing where they hate each other. They don't. They probably get along fine, but you buy it. Same thing with Rush and LA Park. So I thought that was really cool. The entire thing is just amazing. Will this happen at the anniversary? And like I said, Dorian Roldan, they asked him about it. He's like, hey, how about that anniversary, Rush versus LA Park? You think LA Park's going to make it there with his mask? And he kind of made the comment where I find it impossible that that match is going to happen at the anniversary. I think it was just kind of like him being the promoter of the big show leading prior to that show. He can't say anything because he's kind of like, he's got to promote Triple Mania. He can't say like, oh, I'm looking forward to that match because it's going to be LA Park versus Rush in a mask versus hair match. He's not going to say that because he has to add a little bit of that, like that possibility that LA Park might drop his mask at Triple Mania. That has to exist for that match to actually get a lot of people interested in their in that show. Will LA Park drop it in Triple Mania? Hey, we don't know. Could happen. Maybe doesn't happen. No one knows other than, LA Park at this moment. And, and I don't even think LA Park knows right now what he's going to do. LA Park isn't booked on the upcoming CMLL show. Immediately, a lot of people thought he was fired from CMLL because of that. It didn't help that LA Park, like a week earlier, had mentioned that he had been fired from CMLL 9 times. I was trying to figure out if that was even possible. And it probably was because LA Park was in CMLL or in EMLL back in the early 90s. And, maybe he was fired back then. We don't know. He left to go to join Antonio Peña in AAA because he was in EMLL as Príncipe Island. So, but I think he was more referring to the whole him coming back. What was it, like in 2003, 2004, and then came back a couple of years later. Actually, I think he came back I think he was in the right after the Mystico, or right around the time the Mystico era started. So he was there, and then he came back when Dr. Wagner Jr. They did that match where it was like, that was another heated when they did the, what was it? La Sombra was involved in that. Atlantis, I think, was involved in that, where they were building up the Atlantis Sombra mask match. What else? Then he was going to come back that following year, so he's probably been fired a couple of times. The year he cursed. I think that was also the same time period. There's gonna be like we're gonna have to do a timeline on the history of LA Park and CMLL, because it's possible he's been fired 9 times. So he doesn't get booked on a show in CML, and AAA announced him for the AAA versus Elite show, and immediately everybody thought, oh, maybe LA Park was fired or suspended. And even if he was suspended, it would have been a great way to build up that mask versus hair match, because you can't do the same match. You can't have these guys go do this every single week, because the crowd is going to start, actually it hasn't, and it's to their credit, they found a way to like keep it going, because they've done those trios matches. They did the singles match. They were able to add a lot of people. It's going to be interesting to see what the crowd will be like, the attendance will be like for the next show, because this Friday show is going to be the Clan Chaos of Cibernetico, Charlie Rockstar, and Zorro versus I think it's Volador Jr., Caristico, and Mystico, I think, in the main event. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to draw them, although the underneath match is going to be King Phoenix versus Carbonario, so that might actually have enough interest. It's going to be interesting to see if all these other independent guys, if there's enough interest from the fans seeing something completely different to what the usual CML cards have been, will attract fans to attend these shows. I don't know, because what CML was getting was a lot of the tourists were going for those non-independent guys on the shows. So maybe these are the shows that are actually, like, maybe bringing in the independents are actually drawing in the fans who weren't going prior to that. We'll see this Friday what happens. I hope it does work out, because I think that's something CML needed. I wish they would do something about these other shows. I mean, they don't. I mean, Sundays, Saturdays. I mean, I think they're fine with Saturdays, but I mean, the Sundays and Tuesday shows, they got to do something about that. But I mean, I guess getting the Friday show is enough for us. But it'll be interesting to see if this LA Park rush, the cooling down period, if there's enough interest in the other guys coming in. And there's going to be other guys coming in. I'm sure there's going to be more coming in during the upcoming weeks, because they're not just going to have King Phoenix and Cibernetico and Zorro and Charlie Rockstar be the only guys. I'm pretty sure there's going to be other guys coming in. I would not be surprised if Penta Cero M is announced at some point. I would not be surprised if Daga comes in at some point also. I don't know who else there is available. I would not be shocked if Alberto El Patron comes in also. As crazy as it would have sounded at one point, I don't think it's as crazy as it would be now. I wouldn't be shocked if Messias comes in also. There's an indie promotion that's announcing the first time ever matchup between Messias and Ultimo Guerrero in Cuautla, Morelos, July 14th. I think this is something that CML probably realized, and it might have not been CML the main people like in charge, but a lot of their talent that's been wanting these matches. The reality is, like, I've never understood CML's thinking. Like, if you look at the independent shows, they would come up with these really great matchups using CML talent. You would get Volador Jr. versus Flamita, Volador Jr. versus Phoenix. You get, like, Ultimo Girl teaming up with somebody else versus a couple of independent guys. Negro Casas versus, Aramis, or Negro Casas versus so-and-so versus Flamita, all these different matchups, Dragon Lee versus somebody else, and they were happening on independent shows. And I never understood why CML, the people in charge, didn't do it. And if you talk to CML guys, if you watch the Informa show, these guys would constantly bring up how they wanted this to be in CML because they were tired of the same matches. Trust me, it wasn't just Rush who thought it up. It wasn't just Dragon Lee. Volador Jr. Volador Jr., when I told him that I thought the hit... And I love the Sky Team versus Guerrero Laguneros matches. I love those matches. They're always really great for the most part. But there was a period in time when I talked to Volador Jr., where they were doing that almost weekly, and I told him that I wish they would do something different. He said it on Informer, where he actually, and him and Negro Casas, if you've heard them on Informa, they would bring up how, why not have Virus wrestle us, or like, Negro Casas was talking, I wouldn't mind wrestling Stuquita or Pequeño Nitro or Pequeño Mercurio. He was talking about all those guys because he just, like, they get tired of wrestling the same guys over and over again. So, and it's always trios matches too. So I think now the fact that they're giving these guys every once in a while, everybody, like, I know when the match for Lampagos, I think a lot of fans, like, they want to see 2 out of 3 fall singles matches, but a lot of the CML guys actually really like the match for Lampagos just because they're singles matches and they're so much different. And I think also a lot of the younger guys, they view the match for Lampago matches kind of similar to what the TV type of matches are, like in WWE, Impact, whatever they're watching that they've watched on television. Match for Lampago matches are very similar to what they do on those shows because, you can't really have for the most part on television, you don't really have a lot of long matches. You have a lot of short matches. So I think they kind of like the idea of having those type of matches. So, you're getting that also. I mean, Dragon Lee versus Caristico was amazing. I think it's going to be interesting if it's not just LA Park versus Rush, but if all these independent guys come in and can have these really, like, if they add to these shows, I think this is something that's just going to continue on for CML, and I think it's great. And then you can come back to LA Park versus Rush, because that's really what everybody wants for the anniversary. I don't think they're going to... I'm pretty sure that's going to be what's going to happen. They haven't confirmed it. It hasn't been official. You had Rush say that he wants it. LA Park says he wants it. They basically made it, it's up to you, CML, if you want it. So then they had Julio Cesar Rivera say that CML is open to that mask versus hair match, but they know LA Park has obligations elsewhere being AAA. So I think it's up to LA Park if he wants that match. If LA Park I don't know, maybe that's kind of like their way of saying, like, if LA Park drops his mask at Triple Mania, then we're not going to do that match. Who knows? But like I said, it's really interesting to watch CML right now, especially the Friday shows. Just because they're so, like, you just don't know what's going to happen next. Who's going to be booked on the next show? Like, what big names, what big indie name is going to be brought in? And, it's good that they're bringing in the indie guys and they're not just, like, putting them, like, low on the card. They're actually putting them, like, main event or semi-main event spot. It kind of sucks for some of the CML regulars that you kind of wish would move up. But, like, I think the reality for a lot of the CML undercard guys is, if you're not happy with where your place is in CMLL, you really have to go, like, seek your opportunities elsewhere and make yourself a star, like, in the eyes of, like in the US or as an independent. Then maybe that kind of, like, makes you a bigger attraction to the CML programming department. Because really, I think that's the only way you're gonna, like, get a little more interest. More CMLL. Rey Fenix. Not just his name change. In CML, they're going to call him King Phoenix, and they're spelling it, the King Phoenix, King. Obviously, he's been called the King in elsewhere, like in the Crash and the other play, and on the Independence in Mexico. But the Phoenix is spelled, like the city, or like the way we spell it in English. So the city in Arizona, which I think a lot of people were, like, kind of like, I don't know how most people take it, but, for the most part, I don't care. We know who he is. He's good. He's great. So, he kind of, like, he had a couple of trios matches that were really good. Teaming up with Caristico and Mystico. He beat Negro Casas, Barbara Carvanario, and Ultimo Girl on June 8th. Followed that up with the trios match I mentioned, with where he was put into the Rush LA Park trios craziness. He actually was the one facing Cibernetico, and to Cibernetico's credit, he took a lot of King Phoenix's his spots, like him doing the foot stop to the back and stuff like that. So I think Cibernetico, he's the guy, like, in AAA, he never looked, I don't think he gave the level of effort he gives in CM, like, that he gives in CMLL. He's not the greatest wrestler in the world. He's never going to be, like, he's not Like if you ranked guys as far as a skill level, he's not going to be ranked at that anywhere near that. But he's a guy who actually, like in CML, at least he tries, so he doesn't look as bad. I think he kind of looks a little slightly better than Bestia del Ring. Not that much better, but at least he tries. It's like, I think that's the difference. I think Bestia del Ring, there's just certain things he's not going to be able to do. So they had that match. Then he followed that up where he teamed with Volador Jr. and Hijo de LA Park this past Friday, June 22nd, against the Peste Negra. They won the match. And after the match, because Carbonario pulled King Phoenix's mask off, after the match, they set up a singles match between those two. So this is going to be King Phoenix's first singles match in CMLL. And it is going to be, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be really good. I hope it's the first of many, because there's a lot of guys in CMLL that I really want him to wrestle. I mean, unfortunately, we're probably not going to see all of those matchups, but I think I definitely want to see him face Nero Casas, Volador Jr., Dragon Lee, who else? Caristico, you name it, Hechicero, Templario, line them all up. Soberano Jr., all of those guys. I want to see him wrestle all those guys. It's gonna be a really fun match. Rey Fenix is everywhere. I swear, like he was on the most recent Lucha episode of Lucha Underground. He's gonna be back in AAA, July 27th. I think he's working the EMW show in Tijuana, which is the EMW show is basically the AAA. They work with AAA, and I'm not sure if it's gonna be a TV taping. But sometimes it is a TV taping, or a Twitch taping, or whatever you want to call it. It could be that. It could be something completely different. But that's something that you're gonna see him everywhere. He's on MLW's show also. He's I think he's still on Impact. He's everywhere. I mean, it's a fun time to be a Lucha Libre fan, because you see all these guys all over the place. The other story that happened as King Phoenix was making his CMLL debut in Los Angeles, Dragon Lee was on a show, and on that show, Penta Zero M was also there, and they bumped into each other. They did this really cool video where Penta Zero M just bumped into Dragon Lee in the locker room, and started yelling at him and telling him to tell his brother that he's coming for him. I'm guessing that's going to be something that we might actually see as well. When Penta Zero eventually comes in, I'm guessing he's probably going to get an opportunity to work against the Ingobernables or the Dinastía Muñoz. So that's something to look forward to as well in CMLL. But like the following week, when Dragon Lee was here, and he actually was in Arena Mexico, he wrestled Caristico, and after the show, they did another video where he kind of ran into Rey Fenix. Only he was a little nicer to Rey Fenix, but he told him as he was leaving, he's like, "Hey, tell your brother to he gave him a little bit tell him to F off." And so that's gonna be something to look forward to. I mean, this is a good time to be watching the CML Friday shows. I'll tell you that. We still get a couple on occasion. We'll get a really crappy opener or the women on the show, and even some of the women's matches. I can tolerate every once in a while, but it's gotten a lot better. These guys coming in has made the Friday shows so much better. Dragon Lee versus Caristico from I think it was the June 15th show. Really good match. Caristico beat Dragon Lee. And after the match, Dragon Lee announced that he was declaring war on Caristico. I'm surprised CMLL didn't just team them up immediately. Like, they didn't book them together as a team. I think they might have. It's CMLL. You never know when they're going to book these guys together. And I think they're actually booked for a show together in Guadalajara. But Dragon Lee had said he didn't care if they teamed them up or they wanted to make them friends. He's not going to be like Mystico and be okay with Caristico. He wants all out war with him. Caristico said he was fine with the feud, a war with the Muñoz family. That's a match that they should probably do. I know Caristico is also being Penta Cero M is also chasing Caristico, but how about Dinastia Munoz? Rush, Dragon Lee, Mystico versus Caristico, Penta Cero M and Rey Fenix. I think that would be great. So that's what Dragon Lee's basically up to right now. He's also going to be on the July 7th G1 special for New Japan in San Francisco. He's going to get a shot at Hiromu Takahashi for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. That should be a really good match. A great match. I mean, if it's as crazy as the previous matches that they've had, that's going to be amazing. Everything that's going on. I mean, Dragon Lee's going to be on I think he's on the King of Indies show also. I think that's happening around that same week, that same time period. I mean, there's so much. I mean, every single day there's some announcement for Lucha involving a luchador that really really is exciting. I think there's a 4-way match that Dragon Lee's going to be on. I think it's with Bandito, Laredo Kid, and man, I'm trying to remember who else is in that match. But there's a lot of stuff that's going on. That happened. That was announced recently. I mean, just a lot of stuff. Like I said, Penta threatened to go after Caristico at his home, and that means Caristico's home is Arena, Mexico. Who knows? I'm guessing that's probably the next match that happens. All these independent guys make it all the more interesting. Just the possibilities of what could happen at the anniversary show. Are some of these guys going to get spots on the anniversary show? I mean, in the past we've had the New Japan have one guy on the show, or they would have a foreigner on the show. Maybe these guys are going to fill out those spots as instead of them going after somebody like that. Who knows? I mean, it just adds so many possibilities for the anniversary show. It's the other news from that this past Friday's show. Actually it was probably 2 weeks prior. I think it was the June 15th show where the Panther showed up and is now known as Black Panther. The June 22nd show had Blue Panther Jr. and Black Panther teaming up against Dragon Rojo, Pólvora, and Hechicero. If you have not watched this match is great. Hechicero was amazing in the match. And I constantly bring this up, and I wish CMLL would at some point create a tag team division. If they ever full-blown tag team division where they would actually have these guys have tag matches. How difficult is it to have one tag match, good tag match, a week? Put it on the Tuesday show, then maybe 1 week the Friday show or Sunday show, something, just because it would change change the lineups a bit. But Dragon Rojo and Pólvora, they looked good in the match as well. But the highlight of this was really Blue Panther was amazing in this match towards the end. He did a tope suicida, and then he did the craziest thing. We've seen Volador Jr. and we've seen a couple of other CML technicals do this spot where they do a dive into the first row, while Blue Panther decided he was going to give it a shot. And he gave it a shot, and he nearly, fortunately his son was near that area, so he kind of not just got, I think it was Hechicero that he was trying to aim for it, but he also got Blue Panther Jr., so they were able to make sure that he didn't die doing that dive. But man is insane. He's still really good. I mean, and I know Dave Meltzer constantly brings up how that is probably the biggest mistake that has been made, was having him unmasked, because he still at this age is an amazing worker. And I think it's true. I think if he wore a mask, I think people would still see him as a main event guy, not right now where he's basically in the third or fourth match. And I think that probably would have extended his main event status. I think when did he drop his mask? 2007, 2008, somewhere around that time period. He probably would have gotten at least another good 4 or 5 years, and I think Blue Panther would have dropped his mask at some point. It would have been I'm pretty sure it would have been during that Atlantis run where they were getting all those great. That would have been another thing. That would have been cool. If he would have dropped it against Atlantis, but 6, 7, 8 years later, I mean, that would have added another big mass match instead of doing the. But like I said, I think you can't go back in time and change history. Maybe if we could, we'd probably change that. But this was a great match. The Father's Day show from June 17th had it had the microstars, and it was probably the most disappointing microstars match because it didn't focus as much on Microman. It focused more on everyone else, and Micro, I think it was Micro Angel, I think is what they're calling him. He's not very good, and he got a lot of the time in that. He struggles when he lands on doing anything, and I think that kind of like him being in it kind of like it wasn't as good as it probably could have been. The women's Torneo Cibernetico I thought was a lot better than. I think that's the thing. Like I think and like I said, I talked about the tag match, the idea of a tag division. I think the women, because they're always in those trios matches, they don't get to show what they possibly could do. It's the ones that are actually good, and the ones that have potential as being good, they're in so many of those trios matches that they end up just falling in line with and they end up looking as bad as some of the other women. Reina Aces looked a lot more improved, and I'm not saying she looked like she was like the next great star in women's wrestling or anything, or even like whatever. But if you remember what she looked like when she first started in CMLL, she couldn't even do her leg drop properly. I mean, let's be honest, she was horrible even at doing that. Now, I mean, she's worked on her physique. She actually looks like she's a wrestler. Like she looks in great shape, and she actually looks a lot better. I think the Japan tours have actually paid off for her. Mystique, I actually think she has a lot of potential, which is why I think she'll probably be gone by the end of the year. Just because if you have any type of potential in CML, you're probably just gonna leave because they're not gonna do anything with you. Just like I said, constantly do the same trios matches. Because if you're watching like who gets the opportunities, it's always Dallas, Amapola, Marcela, and then it seems like Seductora and Estrellita are the next ones that get an opportunity. Suhei is the other one. It's not any of the younger women. You don't really get like Zuxis was in that group, and even she wasn't getting that same. And she basically got it because she's pretty much in that group. But it's like these other women, like you never see. I don't want to watch it. Like I don't want to watch Dallas versus like Harochita, but it's something different. It's not like the same thing. And I don't think Dallas could lead Harochita in a match, but it's something different and at least it shows that you're giving someone else an opportunity. I think Mystique, like if you put Mystique versus like Amapola, I think it would be a good match. Or Mystique versus like Suhei, I think would be a good match. Certain matchups would do well. I think actually Mystique would probably do okay with Dallas, but you'd probably, that's the other thing. You'd probably need somebody like to like kind of like come up with their match properly, because I think that's also what kind of hurts them. I don't know. I just think they would have to do something completely different for that. But like I said, the Torneo Cibernetico look, I thought Mystique and Reina Aces looked good in the match. I think somebody else was, Maligna was in that match, and she actually looked like she lost weight. It's funny, like Julio Cesar Rivera kept bringing it up that she lost weight, and I was like, man, women don't want to hear you say that, but I thought it was the outfit at first, but she did she looked noticeably different, and she also doesn't look that bad either. In the ring, she didn't look that bad, and like I said, like certain opponents, you're gonna look a lot better than you would like in against other opponents. Like I don't imagine if this match had like La Comandante in it for an extended amount of time, it probably would be a total wreck of a match. But like even that, like the Cibernetico, it ends up being like very predictable at the end with like who wins up. Like it ends up being Suhei beating Dallas, and you pretty much knew what was going to happen at the end. Blue Panther wrestled Felino in the match Relampago. No, it was supposed that we all thought it was going to be a match Relampago, and it ended up being 2 out of 3 falls. It was kind of like it was funny because even Microman, you know how everybody with the Rush, LA Park, they're doing the brawling in the crowd. Now it seems like everybody's doing it. Microman did it. Microman brawled in the crowd with I think it was Chamuel who he was brawling with in the crowd. And then they had Felino and Blue Panther do it. And it was just this really strange match. Blue Panther Felino worked the first I think it was the first fall wearing their mask. And I think Felino then took it off in the second fall or something. And then like I think Blue Panther finally took it off as well. But the commissioner, like the Boxy Lucha commissioner was trying to get them to like take them off. And they were trying to explain to him that they had already received permission to do it. So it kind of looked, I don't know if that was supposed to be part of the match or not, but it looked really awkward. This match was actually kind of weird, but it was kind of entertaining also just because it was so different to what you would have expected from Felino and Blue Panther. The main event was Mystico and Rush beating Sansón and Cuatrero. I thought it was a good match, but like I said, if you watch the Naucalpan match where it was Rush and Dragon Lee versus Hijo Ali Park and Ali Park, you could tell that was what really got Rush going a little more. But this was also, like I said, different. It was a tag match, and it was good. The one thing I didn't like was that they had Bestia del Ring and Cien Caras as seconds. I understood it was Father's Day and they wanted to add that, but Cien Caras screwed up the finish for the match where he was supposed to, I think he was supposed to run in and do something, but he can't run anymore. So he kind of slowly walked in, and then he walked in at the wrong time as his own sons were getting the pin. He walks in and he stomps on Mystico as one of the sons is pinning him, and it just looked really weird. It just made no sense. But the match itself was really good. I thought it was good. Not as good as the match from Naucalpan with those guys, but like I said, it's a different type of match. Overall, I think CML's had a couple, like, I know Soberano Jr. wrestled Titan. I haven't watched that. I know it was different. Something else that happened in CML that I really, and speaking of Soberano, something interesting that happened, I was kind of amused. This happened on Informa. The Copa Bobby Bonales, they announced the three award winners for this year. We're going to be Amapola, Mascaño 2000, and Tony Salazar. They're giving one to a trainer. I don't know if it's going to be just a trainer or someone who retired from the past, just to like I don't know. I think they're kind of going overboard with all this award stuff. They honor them in Dos Leyendas, then they give them another award that they're going to hold a show to like honor them, another show. And so, but one of the interesting things was they were having this conversation with Tony Salazar where he was talking about training, and they were talking about the requirements to train in Arena, Mexico. And he was talking about all that stuff because he's one of the head trainers there. And he was talking about how there's they get a lot of guys who train outside of CMLL. They come there, they're not properly trained, or they have habits that are not what they're accustomed to, or they in CMLL feel are incorrect. So they have to pretty much what you see with WWE, where they have to kind of have them like they kind of have to reinvent what they're doing in the ring, and just take out all the whatever they were doing elsewhere. They change them completely, so they make them into something completely different. But he was talking about this stuff, and then he kind of pointed out to so he used Soberano Jr. as an example of somebody who does something slightly that they view as incorrect. And what he was saying, that when Soberano Jr. runs the ropes, when he hits the rope, you'll notice that he hits the rope the opposite direction. So then when he hits the rope, he turns to like the other direction. So it looks very different. And it was funny because I always noticed, I think most of, like, if you watch a lot of his matches, you might have noticed it, but you don't really think much of it. You just thought, oh, it's something he does. It's just something he does. But Tony Salazar said that it was actually something that is incorrect. But he wasn't putting him down or saying anything like that. He was just saying that it was something that no one would teach you to hit the ropes that way, but it's something that Soberano Jr. did on his own. And he said, I don't know where he learned that, but that's how he learned, and that's what he does. He's like, in some places they would have you change that, and I guess it was something minor enough where they didn't do it in CML, where they just had him. Honestly, I think it's something like if you're comfortable with doing it in that manner, then you're gonna stick to it. And I think it's worked for Soberano Jr. AAA news. Vampiro might have retired again. We don't know. He claims he was hurt, That was something that was, I think I might have brought it up in the last podcast. But, Vampiro, I think I think every other podcast, Vampiro has retired, and then the following week he's back. So who knows? AAA held a press conference to announce their big show for July 21st, where they're going to work with Elite, whatever's left of Elite, because the Lucha Elite promotion, the owner Ernesto Santillan was at the press conference representing his promotion to talk about this show. It's going to be presented by World of Warcraft. One of the things they want to do is they want fans to wear the colors of... I don't know anything about World of Warcraft. I don't play video games. The only video game I play is MLB, one of the baseball games, and I'm not even good at that. And, I play one of those, the apps that you get on your phone. I'm barely like good at that stuff. But as far as World of Warcraft, I have no idea what it is. All I know is they want like fans to wear the colors of some the Horde and the Order, red and blue. So whatever color that represents AAA, I'm pretty sure it's going to be like 90% red and like 10%, even less than 10% blue. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be so many people that see that LA Park is going to be part of the blue team that maybe they'll wear that color. But that's going to be interesting. The entire lineup was interesting. They basically it's going to be AAA versus Elite. Every match, the opening match is going to be Vanilla Vargas representing AAA. She hasn't even made her AAA debut. I don't even remember. I don't think she's been on AAA. She might have been, but it's like she's not somebody I think of. As far as the women's side, I would not think of her as a AAA person. I mean, I would have gone with Lady Shani, or I know Fabi Apache's in the match, but Lady Shani, I'm sure there's like they have like Yedra, Fabi Apache, Big Mommy. I don't know. It's just like, but Fabi Apache and La Yedra are teaming up, and they are facing the Elite team of Lady Maravilla, Keira, and Zeuxis. Zeuxis is going to be representing Elite. She was immediately like after she left CML, everybody was a lot of her fans were telling her, "Oh, it's okay that you're leaving CML. Just don't go to AAA, because that's the worst." I disagree with that. If it benefits your career, you go wherever you please. She's an independent wrestler. She's free to do whatever she wants. She quickly, and as soon as this was announced, somebody posted that, and it was constantly, a lot of people were bringing it up, and she kept telling people, you know what? I'm representing Elite. I'm an independent wrestler. I'm not with AAA. I'm representing Elite. There's nothing more to that. She had to explain herself and all that stuff, and I thought that was kind of stupid. Like I said, like if you're an independent wrestler and you want to work AAA, that's fine. Just don't sign a contract with them, because that seems to be the curse. Don't do what Drastic Boy is doing, and he's signing a 3-year contract. I don't know why Drastic Boy is doing that. I mean, I'm guessing he's probably not in demand on the U.S. independent scene, so maybe he's young enough where he could suffer through 3 years of being under contract with AAA. Like I said, it's like work AAA, but just don't sign a contract, because you're far better off being an independent, getting yourself getting the proper paperwork to work outside of Mexico, and working in the U.S. and making a name out in the U.S. I think that's the direction you should go with. Where the heck Starfire, man? That's who I wanted in this match. Starfire is better than Lady Maravilla, by the way, and better than Vanilla Vargas and La Yedra. Actually, I don't really like Vanilla Vargas. I've seen very little of. Then the second match, representing AAA, Maximo and La Mascara. It feels like the CMLL AAA representatives facing the Elite representatives of Los Traumas. I don't know. Maybe the Los Traumas can pull off something good out of La Mascara and Maximo. I still remember the time I interviewed Los Traumas and asked them if it was true that La Mascara only knows one wrestling hold. And I think I won them over with that question, because afterwards they constantly would greet Kurt and I, and we just have long conversations about what they were doing. That I don't know about that match. Could be good. Depends on what La Mascara we get for this match. The third match is going to be Aerostar and a Luchador Sorpresa versus Hijo de LA Park and Torres representing Elite. Aerostar on Twitter suggested that Argenis be his partner. And I agree. Drago can't. I think Drago's injured right now, so he can't be in that. I think if Drago was available, he would have been announced for this, because I think Drago would be a far greater name than the Luchador Sorpresa that they could possibly bring in from AAA, because I would assume it would be somebody from AAA. So I think Argenis would be fine. Tejano, but I don't think it's going to be. It's probably not going to be Argenis. It's probably going to be somebody with a bigger name. The fourth match is Tejano Jr. and Rey Escorpion representing AAA versus the elite representatives of Golden Magic and Laredo Kid. I'm surprised Extreme Tiger isn't in this. He might be in the main event. Who knows if they can't fill out the Luchador Sorpresa slots, or he might actually be in this because you have some possibilities that Teddy Hart might not show up, which leads me to the fifth match, which is Pagano and Joe Leader representing AAA versus the elite representatives of Jack Evans and Teddy Hart. I don't think Jack Evans wrestled elite. He might have. He might have towards the end, but I don't think he might have done those shows where I think he might have done the show where guys weren't paid, and Garza Jr. Was very upset over that. Teddy Hart, as we know, who could forget his memorable run in Elite, where he wrestled Rey Escorpion and also buried Diamante Azul for being a shit wrestler, which was actually a highlight, and also his Elite run in AAA where he wore the low budget Elite T-shirt, the iron on T-shirt. So Pagano and Joe Leader, really, this doesn't interest me at all. That match doesn't interest me. The sixth match is Dr. Wagner Jr., Psycho Clown, and Hijo Fantasma representing AAA against LA Park, the elite representatives, LA Park, Electroshock, and a Luchador Sorpresa. I'm kind of hoping it's Cibernetico, just because I kind of hope Cibernetico gets asked if he's going to be the Luchador Sorpresa. A lot of people said it's probably going to be Cibernetico. It could be Extreme Tiger. I don't know who else they could bring in. It could be Bobby Lashley. No, just kidding. It can't be Bobby Lashley. It could be Michael Elgin or whatever the fuck his name is. It won't be him. I'm trying to think of other guys that it could be that are available. Hijo de Dr. Wagner. It could be Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. Remember, he was in Elite. Could be Zumbi. It could be Dr. Caronte Jr. It could be Argos. Or it could be Caristico. I actually would not be shocked if it was Caristico. Assuming this whole letting independent guys, unless Caristico's gone full blown, part of CMLL, could be anyone. But that lineup looks interesting. I'm not sure if it's going to be that great, just because there's a couple of matches that the fifth match doesn't interest me, and that second match doesn't really interest me. But the rest of the card does look interesting. I like the women's match. Third match could be good. Fourth match could be good. And the sixth match could be crazy, just because we don't know who the Luchador Sorpresa is going to be. I don't know how great it's going to be because it has Electroshock in it. AAA also announced their July 29th show. It's a Twitch live. It'll be airing. All these shows on AAA will be airing on Twitch live, also taped for television. But this show is also very interesting. This was announced, I think, a week prior to them doing the press conference for the AAA versus Elite show. The opener is going to be Vanilla Vargas. They just list her as Vanilla. Astrolux and Lady Maravilla versus Starfire, Latigo, and Kara. I think this match is probably going to be great. Hopefully, Starfire does not get killed in this match like she almost did in that one match from a couple of weeks ago. The second match, this should be really great. It's going to be Poder del Norte versus Flamita, Bandito, and Aramis. And that is going to be awesome. I think that's going to be it could be a match of the year candidate. I mean, this is kind of like them, like AAA taking the opening match that we were getting that was really great on previous shows and saying, hey, let's put it in the second match. The third match, I think it's just more of Lady Shani versus Fabi Apache buildup, because it's Pimpinella, Mamba, and Lady Shani versus Fabi Apache, Parker Negra, and Australian Suicide. The fourth match is going to be La Mascara, Maximo, Sammy Guevara versus Jack Evans, Teddy Hart, and a Luchador Sorpresa. I don't know why they put Sammy Guevara on the AAA team. I do know it's interesting because it's Sammy versus Jack. should be interesting to who I'm guessing the Luchador Sorpresa is probably going to be an elite member. This is probably just more a build up towards the elite. Obviously, Sammy's going to be a AAA guy. Fifth match is going to be Los OGTs versus Torres, Juventud Guerrera, and Hijos Fantasma. That could be good. I don't know. It could also be a mess, depending on Juvi's side of things. I think it should be fine. The sixth match is going to be Psycho Clown, Pagano, Dr. Wagner Jr. versus Killer Cross, Tejano Jr., and Rey Scorpion. So I guess they're continuing on the Tejano Jr., Rey Scorpion kind of being, involved with the elite. That's the other thing. Rey Scorpion could also be part of the elite main event on the 721 show because he's probably the biggest elite name. When they first started this stuff, he kind of seemed like the most realistic elite guy that they could get. So that's the 729 show for AAA. Really not a lot as far as matches go. There's nothing going on with AAA, just them announcing lineups and press conferences and, Dorian doing the whole, trying to be sarcastic over the whole LA Park situation. In Lucha Libre, we did suffer a lot of losses during the month of June. Jungla Negra passed away on Tuesday, June 5th, at the age of 73. He was primarily a luchador out of Monterrey. I think most people would probably remember him more from being in that April 27th, 1986 car crash that took the life of Angel Blanco and left Dr. Wagner Sr. paralyzed. Solar and Mano Negra were also in that car accident. We've had Solar and Mano Negra talk about that. The car accident, how it really left them for about a year, where they said that they had a hard time just getting over it. I think Solar said that he had to see a psychiatrist or just to get over it for a month, and he said it took a couple months for him to get over it. But he also said that he stayed in touch with Jungla Negra. They became close from that point forward. His son started wrestling in the 90s, so he was still within around the wrestling business. I know Roberto Figueroa talked about how he had just seen him a couple years ago at shows and stuff like that. Then we also had on that same day we also had the passing of Martin Amaro Torres, who was the IWL promoter. That promotion existed from about 2010 through 2013. It actually continued on and off afterwards, but if you're not familiar with the IWL promotion, that was a promotion that was crazy because they would release lineups, and at that time Chris Downer was doing the Lucha Reports, and I think around that time I was doing write-ups for results or stuff. Well, actually, when I had to if Chris wouldn't catch the results, I would actually add it to the Lucha Report. But then Cubs fan was also doing when he would do his post, we would constantly talk about how much we hated those lineups because they always had between 40 to 60 wrestlers, and it just took forever to write them. And then you would get the result, and we could not figure out what the results were. The way they were written by the guys, because people could not figure it out. Same thing happened with DTU. At one point, DTU was like that also, but they would do that. Then afterwards, they kind of started cutting it down a little bit, and they would have they became known for having giving opportunities to certain guys. I mean, that's really where Daga kind of gained his reputation, because he got to work with Davey Richards and a couple of other guys. He had this really great match with Mike Segura, El Suicida. Really great match. I don't know if anybody was able to record that match. I don't know if that company still has it. It aired on Go Fight Live, but they were doing pay-per-views at that point, and I remember that match was really great. And they also had a lot of they had these I think that's where they also had the crazy Trio Fantasia matches with the Cerebro Negro and all those guys, their team. I think it was ATM or some shit like that they were called. But yeah, that was a really entertaining promotion. I think they also brought in Sabu a few times, Masada, guys like that. He passed away. And then we had like, man, then we started getting like a lot, like, what was it, on June 13th, Wednesday, June 13th, we got the news that Arkangel de la Muerte passed away from a heart attack at the age of 51. That was like, he was booked to work the Tuesday show, and he didn't wrestle that show, and he was replaced by Hijo de Signo. CML didn't say anything at the time, but on CML Informa that week, CML Informa, Julio Cesar Rivera talked about how when they found out that CML found out about Arkangel de la Muerte passing away, he basically said that on Tuesday night, right before the show, Arkangel called the CML offices and told them that he wasn't going to be able to wrestle because he wasn't feeling well. So, they didn't really think much of it. It happens often that, guys get sick or they can't make a show, so they call in and let the promotion knows. And they always have somebody available, like, to wrestle. So, to fill in, substitute whoever can't make it. So then the next day they got the news that his wife found him, found him, unconscious, and he had died of a heart attack on, I guess it was very early Wednesday, but she found him earlier. And I think they CML said they found out like at 9:30, 10-ish Mexican time. So yeah, he was a long time CML luchador, going back to 1989. He previously wrestled as El Cid in Naucalpan, and I think he might have wrestled as El Cid also briefly in CMLL, just because what CMLL basically does or EMLL, what they basically do is they bring in a guy and they let the guy work under his name, and if they like what they see, they'll have him work a couple like in the past they used to have him like on the like shows that like the Arena Coliseo show or Guadalajara or someplace, and if they like him, they bring him back, and they'd start planning out what name they want to give him and stuff like that. So that's pretty much because they a lot of these guys train. If they're going to get an opportunity in CML, they start training, or they want that opportunity, they'll start training in Arena Mexico or in a Coliseo. And so he started as he started as Arkangel de la Muerte and stayed like that in EML throughout his career. He never really was like a big star, but he was a really good welterweight. And I would say by the mid 90s, he was already one of the better welterweights in EMLL. And then I think he held the CML welterweight title, the national one also. But at some point when he would go, he was more of the guy who would get sent to go to work outside of Mexico. He started working a lot more in Japan, and I think he struck up a friendship with Nasawa and Mr. Cacao and a lot of the guys from Japan. Ultimo Dragon, I think, also was close with him because they would constantly. He was one of the guys who they constantly brought in, and he would work, CML Japan. He worked DDT. He worked Michinoku Pro. He worked all these other promotions, and I think him doing that, that became like the focus of his career more than anything else. And actually, like the biggest match he had for him, like I found an interview of his, and he was talking about probably one of his biggest matches was actually the All Japan show where he worked. It was the Stan Hansen for Welsh show in I think it was early 2001. I think it was January 28th, 2001. I could be off on my timeline, but he teamed up with Blue Panther against Hijo del Santo and Mil Máscaras, and this was a really good match because you had Hijo del Santo and Blue Panther, who at that time were like really on fire, really having these really great matches. Not just in CMLL, but in on the independents in Monterrey. They just had throughout the territories, Mexican territories at that time, just great matches. And then you basically had Mil Mascaras, who was like the big star to so many of the fans growing up in Japan. He was the big star, so Arkangel got to work with him. And Arkangel really said that was like one of the biggest crowds he's ever worked in front of. So he kind of became more of that. And then like, I think in Mexico, he kind of became more of like the trainer. And then he kind of became the guy that the younger guys would have to go through to like move up a spot and stuff like that. So he kind of they didn't focus on him as much in CMLL. So he basically was always like in the second, third, fourth match on the card. They really kind of the one time like then like in around 2000 2008 he kind of got the the Tuareg, Los Rebeldes Tuareg, which was like this really makeshift group. It was originally going to be like a years prior they had a Los Talibanes with Shocker. I think it was I don't think was it Shocker. It was I know it's Scorpio Jr., Emilio Charles, and Bestia Salvaje. I don't remember. I think it was that because Shocker actually didn't go with them because he kind of like split off from those guys. But it was kind of supposed to be kind of like that, but they kind of like took away the whole like the whole Middle Eastern stuff away from it. So they kind of just were the Tuareg, and you kind of saw that, like you kind of saw the final remnants of that group with Reina Isis when she would accompany Arkangel. But by that point, it was pretty much done because, Scandalo and Nitro were dealing with injuries or with other commitments. Like Nitro was pretty much doing a lot of the, of the union work for the luchadors and CMLL. So although he was there, but, they weren't really doing, like, they weren't kind of as pushed as that group. But they actually, like, that group also had a lot of guys who left, like Dr. X left to go to Perros del Mal. And then unfortunately, he died in that tragic, he got shot at a party, trying to stop a fight, which was one of those unfortunate losses in Lucha Libre. It's sad because a lot of people like still bring him up, and it's one of those sad stories in Lucha Libre. And Arkangel talked about how that kind of was a crushing loss for him. So it wasn't like this. He wasn't really he wasn't a big focus. And then around the time that the Tuareg was going on, he was already like part of the training in Arena Mexico. So pretty much all the guys you see the young guys that you see in CML, they had to go through Arkangel. Like if you hear the way the CML guys talk about how the training works, you would have guys who would train with Virus, and then like some of the women will train with Shocker, and then they'll train with Ultimo Guerrero. Arkangel was in that group. Tony Salazar is another one. Ultimo Dragoncito basically replaced Arkangel. He was already starting to be part of the training, but he kind of among the list of maestros or trainers. But now it's basically he kind of like has taken that spot that now that Arkangel's left that void. But really, Virus is like the one who constantly gets mentioned right now. Ultimo Guerrero also, but Arkangel was in that, and then like. Really, I mean, I think the last couple of years, like the last, I would say 4 or 5 years, he hasn't really been as good. He wasn't as good as he was and then you find, he was a lot older. So, this not every wrestler is going to be age like Negro Casas or Blue Panther. Some of them are going to like not be as good as they were when they were 35 or 36, at age 50, 51. But yeah, he was around there for so long. And one of the things that all the wrestlers talked about when they were talking about his loss, they talked about what a great person he was, not just a great trainer, but they had George Cabrera talk about it. He said he was a good trainer, but a better person. And I mean, everybody talked about him in that way. Then on Friday, we had El Egipcio passed away from respiratory failure. He was somebody that was a big star, like a big CMLL star in the EMLL star in the 80s, as one of the top Rudo heavyweights. He had this really cool mask that basically an Egyptian mask. His name comes from the movie The Egyptian. I found this really great story, not just the story but the interview. He did an interview where he was talking about his career and stuff like that. And he was talking about how he came up with the name and how he came up with the name. I wrote the article on it's on LuchaWorld. You could find it. I recommend people read it because I actually thought it was really interesting stuff that I found about El Egipcio. But he had to decide between two names because the name was too long, and the Boxy Lucha commissioner at that time, Rafael Barradas, who was Estrellita's grandfather, told him that he had to like come up with one name. He could either be I think it was Sinuje or El Egipcio. and he chose El Egipcio because he figured a lot of people wouldn't know what the other thing is, what the other name represented. So he went with El Egipcio. I think he made the right wise decision, and he had a successful career. He lasted 17 years. He was basically an EMLL mainstay throughout his career. Lost his mask on December 9th, 1983 to Rayo de Jalisco Jr. That's actually on my YouTube channel, R&R Wrestling. It's on there. You could find it. And you know, he sees he drops his mask, and one of the things he talked about was a lot of people said that when he dropped his mask, they noticed his features because he's a darker skin, and the way he looked Egyptian, so they kind of thought it worked for him, and he continued on. He was one of the top Rudos. He had a really good run with feuding. They did in the mid 80s. They had this really because the Infernales were breaking apart at that point. They the Infernales were always having like this makeshift group, but they basically created the Infernales versus other Rudos feud. So you basically had not only were the Infernales at some points breaking up, but you also had that mix where they had like La Fiera, Sangre Chicana, Mochocota, Cien Caras. They would also feud against the Infernales. El Egipcio was in that group. So that was actually something interesting. He wrestled into the early 90s, and I think 92, 93, he suffered a back injury during a match. He continued to wrestle, but at that point he knew he couldn't go on, and he basically retired. And from there, he started a career as a cattle rancher, and he became pretty successful. He became successful at that. And he was talking about how his family actually raised cattle. That was what their business was in. So he pretty much knew that business. He actually retired pretty young. I think in his mid 30s. So he was talking about how people would constantly ask him why if he would ever consider coming back, and he said he just couldn't do it. But yeah, he was another guy who I thought was really interesting to like find out more information about. And it's unfortunate that a lot of stuff we find out is after they pass away. Big losses to Lucha Libre, and it's always unfortunate when this stuff happens. But it's that's life, really. Other news: Lucha Underground season 4 started. I like how I'm going from that's that stuff to Lucha Underground, but I haven't really been feeling Lucha Underground this season. The first episode with Aztec Warfare, I didn't think it was good at all, honestly. I also think that those skits that they do, I think they're starting to wear people down, they're just so kind of over the top. I don't know, I just find them kind of like, I don't find them interesting anymore. It's like it wasn't I think when you watch that stuff and then you watch what that finish to the Alley Park Rush match, that's what we want. We want those interviews that they do, like when Rush and Alley Park are like threatening each other, and you could feel it, going through your monitor or your television. That's kind of what we want. And I don't know if we want the skits, because I know a lot of people that they kind of like every season they kind of give up on Lucha Underground, and I'm just not feeling this season. And they've actually had some pretty good stuff. Like the last 2 weeks they've had some good stuff. I didn't really like the 3-way with Sami Callihan, Phoenix, and Mil Muertes. I thought it was okay. Like I didn't. If you could tell me it was good, but it's like I just didn't feel it. Like I thought the finish of it was really solid with King Phoenix and Mil Muertes, but like the stuff, I don't know, it just kind of like, I don't know, there's just something missing in Lucha Underground that, you know what it is? Also, like I don't know if you guys who have been watching it, the crowd doesn't sound like they did at the other temple. I don't know if it's that temple or if maybe the crowd just isn't as, I don't know what happened to the crowd. They don't come across like they were in the other temple. It just doesn't come across as the same as that. I don't know. Maybe it'll change. My opinion will change as the season goes on. I thought Exolucious looked. I thought that his debut, I thought he would look pretty good against Jack Evans, but also the other thing is like the show doesn't feel that Lucha Libre, Like it seems to be missing the lucha aspect of it. Like I think we know it's not lucha libre, but it's like it's also missing some of those aspects to it. I don't know. It just doesn't feel that good. I hope everybody listening to this celebrated June 19th as Rey Mysterio Day. It was Rey Mysterio Day in San Diego, but I feel all of us should have celebrated. The other news, Konnan is making his return to the ring on MLW's July 19th show as part of that Battle Riot match, which is kind of, I guess it's going to be kind of their version of Aztec Warfare or the Royal Rumble. I don't know how much different it's going to be for them. Konnan on his podcast, the only reason I know is because the Cubs fan listened to the podcast. He mentioned that he was hoping that he wouldn't have to be in that match for too long. I don't know, because I think I might have seen Konnan's last match. I think it was that San Diego show that Kurt and I went to, and he did very little. I can't imagine them doing more in the match. I hope he doesn't, because I don't think he should be in the wrestling ring. He needs to realize that at some point, certain age, you just can't do it. Certain age, and after all those injuries, health issues and stuff like that, you just gotta move on and let somebody else do it, but an appearance here and there, I think if it's done in a way where he's not going to have to do too much, I think it's fine. The other big news, PWG announced the participants for Battle of Los Angeles, and 4 of them are, I think it's 4 of them, might be, I don't know, maybe I'm missing somebody. If I'm wrong, let me know, because I only read these 4, and I was so excited that I forgot about everybody else. But it's gonna feature Rey Horus, Flamita, El Bandido, and making his PWG debut, Puma King. I should include like him streaming right now, but I don't want to like spend more time editing this more than I already would probably be doing it. But this is really great. This is really the big chance for Puma King. I mean, I think it's great. This guy deserves it. Getting that exposure to be on a big show, on a big this is a big indie deal for him. This could lead to other opportunities. He did the Arrow Lucha show also. I think it's great. I think more of the CML undercard guys should really look into doing this sort of thing. I don't know if it means like they should leave or anything. I'm not saying that, but the fact that Dragon Lee's getting to work some really high profile indie shows in the United States and also work New Japan and Ring of Honor, I think a lot of guys, and speaking of Ring of Honor, how the fuck do you guys not have not had Barbara Carbonario on your shows? I mean, come on guys, get to work on that. I mean, I was blown away by that when Barbara Carbonario said that his dream was to work for Russell and Ring of Honor, and that's when I realized he hadn't been on there. I mean, that's something that they really need to work on. But getting back to Puma King, I think this is a great opportunity for him. Really excited to see what matchups they come up with for him. I think the PWG crowd is gonna love him. I don't know. It's funny because Puma King has wrestled in LA a lot. He's wrestled in Lucha Vavoom. He's wrestled on Lucha shows here. I'm not saying a lot, but within the last couple of years, he's been here more often. Like 3 times a year or stuff like that. He wrestles in San Diego also. So I don't know, because it's funny because being in LA, you would think like, Lucha fans know about PWG and PWG knows about the Lucha shows. A lot of them don't. Like a lot of people don't know, Lucha Underground the same. You don't see like a lot of the people that you see like in Lucha Underground or in PW shows, you don't really see at a Lucha show, like a local Lucha show. You might not see them, so they might not be as familiar with these guys as you think they would be. And at the same time, the Lucha people might not be as familiar with PWG. Volador Jr. was here that weekend that he wrestled. I think he was wrestling Johnny Mundo and Mephisto. And that same weekend, I think they had a PWG event. It might have been the Battle of Los Angeles that weekend also. And I think Volador Jr. was asking me about some shows, and I told him, so and so is at the Lucha Underground at the PWG show, because we brought up Dr. Wagner Jr. was on another indie. I think he was working a FMLL show or something in Los Angeles also that weekend. And I told him, and he knew about that. And I said, yeah, no, so and so is at the PWG show. And he's like, oh, really? What's that? And I was like, really? You don't know you don't know what PWG is. But then, once you get to know Volador Jr., you kind of realize he's not somebody who's really like. Once you get to know Volador Jr. and you see like his wife, you kind of know he's not like he's kind of busy doing his own thing. And a lot of wrestlers are like that, anyways. But yeah, that's gonna be an interesting thing for Puma King. I think the crowd's gonna be very into his act. His work is really good. He's a really good Rudo. So I think that's going to be something that they're going to be into. They're really going to enjoy. I think they're going to rave about him after that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it right now as far as what's going on with Lucha Libre. A lot of excitement. Like I said, the Rush Alley Park feud is really exciting. So much more to talk about. I'm sure there's going to be so much more to talk about in the coming weeks. We're barely in June. By July, we're probably going to have so much more with the AAA shows. I kind of wish AAA would have like move around these shows where it's not all grouped together within a time frame. I kind of wish they had a couple of different, like at least I think AAA really needs to do like at least every 2 weeks, a show every 2 weeks, just to keep it like something a little like for us to talk about. But like I said, there's so much to talk about. Going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with Alley Park and Rush. Who else is going to debut in CMLL as far as the independent talent goes? What's going to happen with some of these other CML guys working outside of CML? Like, there's already like a bunch of lineups. I was telling people like we're going to get an IWG, like we're going to get El Mesias versus I think Penta Zero M on their upcoming show. We're getting like a lot of really fun shows. Just like the Crash's shows are really interesting. I wish the Crash would have done something with their like where they would post matches. I mean, I don't know what they're waiting for with TV and stuff like that. You gotta build that stuff up, and I think you have such an easy way to do it with YouTube and stuff like that. I don't know. That's just me. I mean, I don't understand what these promotions are doing, but yeah, a lot of great stuff going on. Like I said, fun time to be a Lucha Libre fan. And I should say, be sure to visit LuchaWorld.com. Check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/LuchaWorld. And I want to thank everyone again for listening.